Welcome to the Halloween Half Hour with Christopher Ripley, Boston White, and me, the spooky voice guy.
Hello, boils and ghouls, and welcome to another episode of the Halloween Half Hour, the only horror-based podcast that has the duration in the name, but will never stick to that duration.
Never.
I'm Christopher Ripley, and I've just been let out my coffin, but I'm not allowed out the crypt on my own. I am faithfully joined by...
Me, Boston White.
How are you?
I am good. I am buzzing. I am filled with all kind of spooky vibes today because I've been doing nothing but spooky research and spooky interviewing, and I've got Halloween coming out of every pore in my body right now.
Good. The Christmas decorations can wait.
Oh, yeah. Christmas.
Unless it's Krampus, we don't care.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so we've got a packed show. We've got an interview later on with the writer and director of one of my favourite films, Clue. And we've got a trip report from your very good self, Amanda. What was you up to again?
So I went to go and stay in the most haunted hotel in the UK on Halloween night.
That sounds pretty cool. But before we get into all of that, let's go straight into the news.
I'll start us off. These are just like little quick ones for me because we don't have too much info on them right now. But something that piqued my interest this week was news that we are going to have a new Scream film. I freaking love Scream.
That has got to be one of my favourite horror franchises.
Honestly, I even loved the TV show. I know that the TV show was Marmite to people. Well, the first season anyway. I really, really did love the first season. And I think on our other podcasts, I've spoke about it quite passionately in the last episode of season 1. I really genuinely loved it. And Scream is one of my all-time favourite franchises too. And so we don't know just yet whether this is going to be in the same kind of storyline as the original franchise or whether it's going to be a remake. But we do know that original writer Kevin Williamson is not writing it right now.
Okay.
So it's a little bit up in the air. Nervous mixed with excited.
Yeah, I know, because Scream 4 wasn't exactly brilliant, was it?
No, I mean, Scream 1 and 2 I think were fantastic. Scream 3 is where I started trailing off a little bit. But yeah. I'm always happy to see Ghostface.
Yeah, I like all three. I think I quite like number 3 just because it was sort of all around the sound stages in Hollywood. I thought that gave it quite a nice sort of interesting dynamic.
Yes, exciting.
Yeah, my news one, I've got a couple here, but my first one is not great news. It's news about the sequel or never to come sequel for Trick or Treat. Everyone's favourite Halloween film. So the original writer-director, Michael Doty, has been quoted as saying that the property is still with Legendary, the first one. There's been a regime change at the top of the table there, and there hasn't been much to do about bringing the film back for a sequel. Although he is interested, albeit he's a little bit, as he says in the interview that he did, that he's a bit unsure possibly about bringing it back as a sequel and perhaps maybe as a standalone film. But he hasn't been approached, he isn't working on it, and he feels that every Halloween somebody seems to ask him, when's the sequel coming?
I have such mixed feelings on a Trick or Treat sequel because I really do love the film. I really, really do love it. I think it's one of the better anthology films that we've had in a long time. But then I always have this little thing inside of me that's like, a sequel can go either way. It can be really, really terrible or it can be okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there is anything stopping them just plucking the Sam character and putting him into another film. I don't think you could possibly write a film where all the characters interlink to the first film. I don't think there would be any sort of need for that. But I definitely think there is more films for that character.
I'd like to think so. I don't know. I am just mixed on it. Like, I feel like there's not necessarily even a need to have a sequel at all. And that's not being like, oh, it doesn't deserve one, because it's a good film, but I think it's a good film on its own. So I'm unsure about how I feel about that, about a sequel anyway.
Yeah. Okay, and now we're going to discuss, you've seen a horror film at the cinema recently.
I have. So actually, I saw it on opening weekend, and I was a little bit confused about the date. So usually, all the films that we want to go and see in the UK tend to come out in America first.
I know, bummer.
So I was all super hyped up about seeing Doctor Sleep, and I was like, yeah, it comes out in November. And I even made a little schedule for me and my boyfriend, and I was like, okay, we've got Joker here, then we've got Doctor Sleep in November, we've got Black Christmas in December, we're all set. So I kept seeing people posting Doctor Sleep coming out on, I think it was Halloween night that it was coming out, and I was like, yeah, no, that's America, that's fine. And then when we were en route to our little haunted night away on Halloween night, we saw a poster saying that it was out on Halloween in the UK. And I was like, oh, we've fricked it here. So we, of course, the next day had to go and see it. I don't want to get too much into the film itself because I want me and you to do a full review of it on the next episode, because I know that you haven't had a chance to see it yet. However,
no, I haven't.
I saw over the last few days, because it actually came out here first and then came out in America the next week. So we had a little bit of time to see it first. Since it's come out in America, all I've been seeing all over the internet is how terribly it is doing at the box office. And nobody can understand why. I certainly can't understand why. Like, without getting too much into it, I thought it was an absolutely gorgeous film. It was fantastic. And this whole news story completely baffles me.
Obviously, it's a Stephen King project. It sequels the original film, the Kubrick masterpiece, but also it's got the director from the Netflix show, The Haunting of
Hill House.
Of Hill House, yeah. Sorry, my mind blank then. Yeah, so it should have, it's got all of that in the mix. So in theory, it should be an amazing film.
Exactly. It's got all of the right maths, and that maths just is not adding up for me. And I've seen people saying things like, maybe it's the name, maybe it's the time of year that it's come out, maybe after all of the hype of It Chapter 2, the want to watch another horror film just isn't there right now. But none of that makes any sense to me. I don't think that any of those would be the reason.
It is strange, isn't it? I think I'd have to see it for myself.
It's very, very peculiar.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, as you said, it's just not setting the box office alight, which it probably should have done.
No, and in fact, it's set to lose money.
Ooh.
Yeah, so currently, going off a few things that I've read today, it's set to, at current box office numbers, is set to lose around $30 million.
Oh, man.
And that, honestly, I do not get it. I do not at all get it. Once you've seen it, you'll totally understand. Anyone who's listening who's seen it is probably feeling as baffled as I am.
Yeah.
And I absolutely adore Mike Flanagan. I think he's done such amazing things for horror over the last few years. He's relatively new. Yeah. I know he's been doing things for a long time, but he's kind of blown up over the last few years with things like E.G., Origin of Evil. He's done Gerald's Game, which is on Netflix. Yeah. Haunting of Hill House, which I think I've probably watched about 15 times so far. I absolutely loved it. And then Doctor Sleep. And he did Hush as well.
Did he?
Yeah. He's done some fantastic films. He's very, very good at what he does.
I did read an article that said they thought possibly the marketing hadn't been handled in the best way.
Really?
I don't know. I mean, I must admit, I haven't seen a huge amount of marketing.
No, I mean, I know we had the big trailer that got released a few months ago, and there wasn't really much after that. So maybe that is it. Maybe that is it. Maybe people, the general movie fan, don't know that it has anything to do with The Shining. Maybe that's it. I can't figure it out, honestly.
Let's hope that it stays in the cinemas and people catch up, essentially.
Yes, I feel like if you do one thing between this episode and the next one, please go and see Doctor Sleep because you won't regret it.
No. And it's definitely going to fill that void that a lot of people are going to be waiting for Star Wars, aren't they? So it's definitely something you can go and see between now and then.
Or Black Christmas.
Or Black, oh, of course, sorry, I forget Black Christmas.
Yes.
The final news story, it's not really a news story, it's just something interesting I thought I'd bring up. I've got the official US and UK charts for films that were streamed, downloaded, purchased, DVD, Blu-ray, etc. for the night of Halloween. So it was what people were watching that night.
This interests me.
Yeah, I know.
I'm very intrigued.
I've got the whole list, and then I've separated it out in just the horror films. So the number one sort of technically horror, perhaps it's not a horror film that people were watching, were going back to Mike Dougherty again. They were watching Godzilla, King of the Monsters.
Oh, interesting.
That was number one. Number two was 2019's Child's Play.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hocus Pocus.
Of course.
So,
of course.
Of course. Standard. Addams Family Values.
Oh, like it.
The Addams Family.
Mm-hmm.
The Values, that was the second one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So the sequel was watched and downloaded more than the original. That's interesting. The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Uh-huh. Mixing it up.
Zombieland. The Shining. And the 2018 Halloween.
Okay.
A Quiet Place.
I actually haven't seen A Quiet Place.
Nor have I, actually.
Well, we're failing here.
I know, right? It, 2017 version. Extremely Wicked and Shockingly Evil and Vile, which I have seen.
I have not.
That's the Ted Bundy film. And
I have seen that.
You have seen that? Okay.
I have seen that.
And then the final one is Hotel Transylvania 3.
Something for the kids.
Something for the kids. So that's the horror films. But the number one film, the most watched film on Halloween night was Toy Story 4.
What?
Yeah.
That is insane.
Yeah.
That honestly, I feel like the majority of that list shocked and surprised me. No,
and number two actually
Halloween?
was no original Halloween. No, hardly any old stuff actually, apart from The Shining.
Wow.
Well, unless you call Addams Family old, which I suppose it is. And number two was overall was Men in Black International.
What was happening on Halloween?
I don't know. But in fairness, if you were staying at home watching a DVD on Halloween night, then you probably wasn't celebrating Halloween properly, in fairness.
Probably. But then to be fair, Halloween was on a Thursday this year, so a lot of people had work on a Friday, unless you planned appropriately like I did.
Yeah. So that means next year it'll be on a Friday, right?
I feel like it's on a Saturday because it's a leap year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So there's definitely no excuse not to party then.
No, next year everyone needs to go wild on Halloween. I don't want to hear of any. Yeah, it's on a Saturday. I don't want to hear of anyone watching Toy Story or Men in Black International. I need everyone watching Terrifier.
Oh dear.
I can't believe that.
Gosh. Yeah.
That's so strange.
I know. Sad but true.
Maybe they were just trying to like wash away the idea of Halloween with the most un-Halloween film ever in Toy Story.
I mean, I can't believe Trick or Treat's not there because that's becoming a lot of people's tradition. But also, what was the other one that I spotted? People must be watching The Shining in preparation for Doctor Sleep, but
clearly
perhaps they watched The Shining and then couldn't be bothered to go and watch Doctor Sleep.
No, today, horror is baffling me today.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Anyway, that's enough of the news. Next up, we've got our interview with Jonathan Lynn, who is the writer-director of Clue, which is one of my favourite films. He's also written and directed loads and loads of things, mostly all comedy, although he has starred in a Hammer film Although I asked him about that off the record, and he said, no, I was only there for a day. So he couldn't really go into much detail on that. But so let's go to that now.
The Halloween half-hour special guest interview.
Jonathan Lynn, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. And you?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you. Jonathan, you were born in Bath in England and studied at Cambridge, and your early career was that of an actor and a TV writer. How did you get into the business of show?
I was at Cambridge, and there were a lot of people there who intended to go into the theatre in one form or another. At the same time I was there, really an astounding number of people, considering there's no drama faculty. Yeah. But while I was there was Trevor Nunn and Michael Apted and Mike Newell and many others. And in the Footlights Club, there was John Cleese, Tim Brooke-Taylor, Bill Oddie, Graham Garden, Graham Chapman, Eric Idle, lots of them. And Eric and I did a sketch to get ourselves into the Footlights Club, and we did. You could only get into it in those days if you were funny. Uh-huh. And then I started acting in university plays. I was in a play directed by Stephen Frears at the Arts Theatre of Cambridge, Waiting for Godot, when he was just starting as a director. And anyway, when I left Cambridge, the week I graduated, I got a phone call from Bill Oddie saying that the Footlights Review that had happened the previous year, and which had gone to London for a season, was now going to Broadway, and would I like to go? So I said yes. So I became an actor immediately. And my first job was on Broadway, and my first TV show was The Ed Sullivan Show with 70 million viewers live. Wow. So it's been downhill all the way ever since, really.
So you were doing a number of TV shows, and was it a gradual thing that you got into the writing, or was you included in the writing from the get-go?
All of the people that I've just mentioned, all of the people in the Footlights Club, the comedians, were all writers, and I never seemed to know how to do it. But after I got back from New York with Cambridge Circus, I managed to get a few jobs in rep. And then I was in a play at the Edinburgh Festival with only 2 characters in it, and incredibly, it got great reviews and transferred to London. So 9 months later, I was in the West End in a leading part. But it didn't run. And after that, I couldn't get any work at all, because all the casting directors had seen me, and they all said, I was playing a neurotic botany graduate student in the play, and they didn't have any parts for neurotic botany graduate students, so they couldn't imagine me as anything else. So I didn't get any work, and I was working at Selfridges, and I went round to Bill Oddie's house one day. He was a neighbour, and I was moaning about not having any work, and he said, well, why don't you write? So I said, well, I don't think I can. And he said, well, you haven't bloody tried. I thought, well, that's true. So I tried, and then later I got a job in Fiddler on the Roof, a very nice part in the original production of Fiddler on the Roof. And after it opened, I started writing in the daytimes.
Gosh.
So I really started writing because I didn't have any work as an actor.
So how did you, in those early days, where did you draw your inspiration from? How did you learn your craft, essentially?
Well, there wasn't a way to learn the craft in those days. I mean, there weren't film schools or... No. There'd be no creative writing faculty at Cambridge or anything like that. There weren't really any. You learned your trade by just doing it and gradually getting better. And I got lucky again with my with my second script. The first script I sold but nobody put on was a TV play. And then the second one, I wrote a screenplay, which did get made, incredibly. And then after that, I was in the series. I was acting in the series Doctor in the House, Doctor in Charge, or those series that went on forever. Yeah. And after I left it, George Layton, who was in the series with me and who was also struggling to become a writer, phoned me and said, there isn't a script for the slot 3 weeks from now. The writers haven't delivered. Shall we try and write one? So I said, okay. So we tried to write a script for the Doctor series, and it was actually not that hard for us because George was still in it, and I had been in it, and we knew all the characters very well. So anyway, we had beginner's luck. We wrote a script that Humphrey Barclay, the producer, really liked, and he put it on, and it went well. And after that, we were suddenly deluged with offers to write episodes of comedy shows because there aren't that many people who can.
Mm. Was it then that you had got the offer to write some scripts for On the Buses and sort of those sort of English?
That's right.
Sitcoms?
Exactly right. It was after that, while we were still writing episodes of the Doctor series, Ronnie Wolf and Ronnie Chesney, who had created On the Buses and written it all, were now going off to do On the Buses movies.
Oh, right.
And they needed someone to keep the television show going, so they asked us if we would write a series for them On the Buses, which we did.
Yeah. And
then we wrote various other things. We wrote for Harry Worth, who was a famous comedian in those days. And, we gradually... So you're asking, how did we learn our craft? Well, we learned it by doing it and by trial and error. And I must say, it was 5 years after I started writing before I got anything produced, or maybe 6. Mm-hmm. So I just kept writing and kept getting rejected, but gradually getting the idea. And then, eventually I had a bit of luck with the film I wrote and the Doctor series.
Yeah. And that sort of brings me on to one of your early, largest sort of franchises is the Yes Minister series, Yes Prime Minister. Is that when you started to work on that? And how did that come about, your involvement with that show?
There's a man called Tony J, who had started a company called Video Arts, which made management training films. I got to know about it because he was in partnership with John Cleese. Tony had been at the BBC and had been the man who devised a series called The Frost Report.
Oh, yes.
Which John Cleese, Ronnie Barker, and Ronnie Corbett were all in, and it made them all stars. Mm. And then Tony, who was an expert on management, talked to John Cleese and said, shall we start this management training company? So first I heard of it was when Cleese phoned me up and said, we're making a short training film, management training film, and would you be in it for a deferred payment? And I thought, poor John, he must really be on his uppers if he's doing management training films. I was completely unaware of the huge financial upside. Mm-hmm. So I acted in it, and then to my astonishment, I got the deferred payment almost immediately and acted in the next 2. Okay. And then John went off to write Fawlty Towers, and Tony asked me if I would like to write some training films with him. They were very difficult to write because you not only had to be funny. Tony's essential idea was that if most management training films, which were shown to people in big corporations, were very boring because they showed you how to do the job right. Mm-hmm. And Tony's insight was that if you showed how to do it wrong, it would be funny, and you could then see how to do it right. So he made these funny management training films, and with John was in them, John Cleese, and then lots of other comedians were in them. And they were hard to write because you had to get the management training lessons right. Mm. You couldn't just put in something if it was funny. It had to be funny and relevant and not destructive to the teaching point. Yeah. So they were hard to write. And Tony and I started, in the end, I wrote about 20 of them, I think. And Tony and I wrote some together, and some he just briefed me. And then he said to me, do you want to... I've had an idea for a comedy series about what goes on in Whitehall, in government, behind the scenes. Uh-huh. And would you like to write that? And I said, no, I don't think so. It sounds a bit boring. So I said no, and I went off, and I became director of the Cambridge Theatre Company, which was a big arts council subsidized touring company. Yeah, I turned it down. Gosh. And then 3 years later, when I decided I needed to get back to writing, I phoned Tony and I said, Tony, I feel I ought to get back to writing. And have you done anything with that idea? And he said, no, do you want to do something with it now? So I said, yeah, let's try. So we started researching it. And in the end, the funny thing is that we researched it all very, very carefully. And in the end, you really could say that Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister were management training films for politicians.
That's a very good point, because you had a very big following, including the then Prime Minister, Margaret Thatcher. I think everybody was tuning in, were they not?
Yes, they were all very enthusiastic. It was interesting because we thought that they'd all hate it. But in fact, they all loved it. The politicians liked it because it showed how the civil service really runs the country. So it gave the politicians an alibi. If anyone, if people didn't, if they didn't keep their promises to the electorate, they could say, well, we couldn't.
No.
We were prevented. What they would now call deep state. And the civil servants loved it because they showed that they really did run the country and that the politicians were mostly totally inept.
Of course.
So they liked it too. So although the civil servants weren't crazy about the portrayal of themselves and all the politicians, they were also pleased about the portrayal of the other. So that was very interesting. So instead of everybody hating it, which we expected, everybody loved it. I mean, everybody in government.
So if you don't like the poll tax, it's fault. It's Sir Humphrey's fault. That sort of attitude.
Oh well, exactly. Yes. Yes.
It's very surprising to me. Well, not surprising as much because it is a very good classic series. But I recently rewatched them, and it's how really you could probably just dust those scripts off now and reuse them today, and they would be as funny and be as relevant. I mean, that is such an achievement.
I think they're still almost all completely relevant, and I think they're. I don't know how we did it. I think it's because we weren't really talking about politics. We were talking about government. Yeah. And government remains the same, the same issues are perpetual. I mean, in 1986, we were writing Yes, Prime Minister. And just as a matter of interest, I thought I'll go back and look 30 years before, the same week, August 1956, in the Daily Telegraph. So I went off to Fleet Street, which existed in those days, and looked at the Daily Telegraph archive because there wasn't an internet. And what did I find but exactly the same stories? And they're the same stories as today.
Yes.
Is unemployment rising or falling? Is the pound weaker or stronger? There's an impending crisis in the Middle East. What are we going to do about it? Is the special relationship with America working out? Do we want to be in Europe? Why haven't we got a national transport I mean, you just go on. It's the same. Yeah. Nothing has changed.
Nothing.
Just the names and inflation has caused the sums of money to be different.
Yeah. Whereas it used to be a million, it's now a billion or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. Now I've got a feeling I could probably chat to you all day. I mean, you have such an amazing career, and you've worked with so many different people. But the reason that we're here today is for our listenership who absolutely adore your film Clue. I mean, how does that make you feel that Clue has turned into this huge cult classic that just has gone on and on through the decades?
It makes me feel puzzled, actually. I'm pleased, of course, but I don't quite know why. And I'm just delighted. I keep meeting people that love it, and I keep being invited to talk about it. And when I go to film schools to talk to students, there's always someone in the class who says, it's my favorite film. And I always think, are you kidding? Have you seen Lawrence of Arabia or The Godfather? But yes. No, they think Clue is their favorite film. So, I'm delighted but puzzled. Yeah. That's how I feel.
So how did you get involved with the project? Because I think you were, I'm right in saying you were about the 5th or 6th writer to attempt the film?
Apparently. I didn't discover that till long after. The idea came from the producer, Deborah Hill. She approached John Landis, who was a very hot director at the time, very talented director. He had just made Trading Places.
Oh, yes.
And Animal House. Wonderful films, very funny. And they brought in a man called Peter Guber and John Peters. John Peters was Barbara Streisand's partner at the time. And so it was all very big deal people. And Peter came to London, and my agent phoned me up and said, there's a producer staying at the Grosvenor House Hotel who I think you should meet because you've never met anyone like him. So I went along to breakfast there, and he was absolutely right that this man talks at about 100 miles a minute.
He doesn't change it.
And no, and he's still the same. And he was a phenomenally successful guy. He was president of Columbia Pictures at the age of 27.
Wow.
And by this time he was in his 30s, I would think, late 30s or 40s, and they'd just made Out of Africa and Rain Man and God knows what.
Gosh.
So he talked to me for about 3 minutes. I hardly said a word. And then he said, I have just a project for you. So I said, what? And he said, well, do you know the board game, Clue? And I said, well, is it the same as Cluedo? And he said, yes, it's the same. And we're making a film of it. John Landis is directing it, and we need a writer. So I thought, well, I wonder what to make of that. So I said to my agent, they want to make a film based on a board game. I've never heard of anything so silly. There was nothing like that ever happened in those days. Peter said, would I go to California and meet John Landis? Well, I'd never been to the West Coast, and I discovered they were offering to fly me first class, and I thought, well, that might be the only chance I ever get in my life. So let's go for it. So I got on the plane and had this flight, very luxurious flight to Los Angeles, and then I met John Landis, who was really remarkable, another man who talked faster than anyone I'd ever met. He basically outlined what he thought he'd like to happen in the film in the most general terms, and he finally got to he was doing what he called a pitch, which I'd never seen the like of. He was running around his office, shouting, screaming, leaping on the furniture, trying to give me the impression of what he wanted. And finally he said, and then the butler says, I know who did it. So I was on the edge of my seat, and I said, well, who did? And John said, I have no idea. That's why I need a writer. So I phoned my agent, and I said, these people are insane. Can I come home? And he said, well, while you're there, why don't you try and think of something? So I thought of a couple of very feeble ideas, I thought. Suggested them to John the next day, who was delighted and said, would I write the script? So I went home with a deal to write a movie for John Landis in Hollywood with a very, very vague story and a few notes and really no idea of what I was going to write. And so it took a while to work out the plot, which was insanely complicated because I wanted it to be truthful to the board game. I wanted all the same rooms that are on the board and the same characters, and I wanted it to be funny. And because it was a murder mystery in a country lonely house, it had to be sort of an Agatha Christie parody, really. So therefore, because I didn't want it to be like Agatha Christie, it had to be really funny. And then I had the problem that all these characters had names like Miss Scarlet, Mr. Green, Mrs. White, and that's absurd. They can't all be, they're just colors, they're not characters at all. So I had to find a reason for them all to be named after colors. So that was my starting point for the script, which is if all these people have got these strange aliases, they must have been given them by the same person. So it's not their real names. So that was my starting point to working out the reason. John's story had some nice incidents in it, but no explanations. And of course, character is plot. You can't. Graham Greene said that character is plot. You can't develop a story without knowing who it's about. It's got to be about the people. So anyway, that's how I got into it. I think that's a very, very long answer to your question.
No, it's fascinating. I mean, just you've touched there on the set. I mean, the set is what also makes the film. I mean, such a beautiful, huge environment to work in. I mean, how much involvement did you have with that?
Oh, total. We had a very good production designer. The set cost $1 million, which in those days was absolutely enormous. The whole film cost $8 million, so you can tell that the set was, a very big item. And I worked with the designer on it, and I planned out in the script where all the rooms had to be in the same relationship to each other as they were on the board game. The secret passages had to be in the same place. It all had to be the same. So, but he did a wonderful job. And the scenes outside, in the front drive in the rain, that was all on the studio stage as well.
Oh, that was on the soundstage. Oh,
and that was on the soundstage. So there were only 2 or 3 shots in the film that were outside the soundstage, and of cars driving. Everything else was in the. It was the biggest soundstage at Paramount, the one where Alfred Hitchcock made Rear Window.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Stage 16, I think it was, but I'm not quite sure.
Gosh, because there's a lot of actual parallels between those two films when you think about it, in terms of using the architecture as part of the story.
Well, in those terms, yes, absolutely. You're right. Never thought of that, but I guess that's true.
You also had an amazing cast. I mean, what was it like to work with, say, Tim Curry, for example?
Well, I knew Tim since I was 14.
Really?
We were at school together. Yes, we were at school together. And I'd originally written the part for Leonard Rossiter, who had just directed in Loot by Joe Orton, and had been a big hit in London. But Len, unfortunately, died in the middle of a performance, no less. And so I didn't really know who to get. And Paramount didn't really know anyone from Britain who was suitable to play the butler. I got Rowan Atkinson to send me a demo reel because I thought he would be wonderful. But they said no, they'd never heard of him and they didn't want to know.
Oh, wow.
And then Tim had been in the Rocky Horror Picture Show, I think. And so they knew him. And they were happy with that idea. And I was very happy because, Tim was an old friend. And he's a wonderful actor. Mm. And then the rest of the cast, you're right, they're all great. The only one I knew before was Madeleine Kahn, who I'd seen in Mel Brooks's films and Paper Moon or one of the Peter Bogdanovich films. And I was a huge fan of hers. All the others, I didn't know who they were. Really? And they just came in to meet me, and I thought they were the people I selected from all those who came in to meet me.
Gosh, is it true that there are talks in Hollywood to have a remake of the film?
I've heard that rumor, but of course I'm not consulted on that. I've heard that they were going to do a remake, and that it wasn't going to be funny. Oh. Yes, exactly. So it's going to be quite different. Just a film based on the board game, another film based on the board game. I know nothing about it, and I'm sort of not very interested in it. And then I later heard it was abandoned because whoever was going to make it discovered that Clue was such a cult favorite that he wasn't sure he wanted to make another film of it after all. Yeah. So that's what I heard. But my information is no better than yours.
To paraphrase your own film, to cut a long story short, too late, which is my absolute favourite line in the whole film. Jonathan, thank you ever so much for coming on the show and just discuss your career. And we probably could have spent all day because we've not even touched on My Cousin Vinny or all the other films that you've worked on. So I apologise for that.
Well, that's all right. But if you want to do another one, we could talk about Vinny and my new novel, Samaritans, and other things if you'd like to sometime. You're very welcome.
Yes, yeah, definitely. We must
see if your listeners want a return visit.
Gosh. Well, anyway, we could spend all day. Thank you ever so much for that. That was really good of you, really kind.
Very welcome. It's a great pleasure. Thank you, Chris.
So, Amanda, what do you think?
I was so excited when you told me that you were going to be interviewing him because I know from all the years that we've been friends how much you adore Clue.
I know. I tell you, it's one of my favourite films. It has been since I was a kid. I think I spoke about it on another podcast where I said that we used to fish, which is basically put a VHS and tape stuff overnight. And it was basically, that's how I found the film. It was just something that we managed to catch on VHS. And it was just, I just adored it from the get-go. And I used to love playing Cluedo as well.
I do love Cluedo.
But Jonathan is such a nice guy, and his stories, I mean, I've spoken to him many times. I could have just sat there all day chatting to him, but unfortunately he had a meeting to go to, so he had to run off. But I mean, how cool was it to think that he grew up with Tim Curry, for one?
Insane.
But how also insane is it that Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean, nearly got the part that Tim Curry got?
Honestly, more horror baffling me. It's crazy. I think he's such an interesting guy.
Right, so now we're going to go on to our main topic this evening, and you've been doing a little bit of Yvette Fielding. You've been doing a bit of ghost hunting, I believe.
I have. So basically, I felt inspired after I went to a convention recently, and they had a ghost hunting seminar. And I was like, basically, rewinding a little bit, I started doing a little series on my YouTube channel about a year and a half ago called Sunday Scaries, where I'd go to haunted places and I'd just do a little bit of recording and I'd tell maybe some stories about the place that I was at. And I was like, I want to be Yvette Fielding in Most Haunted. I want to be Linda Blair in Scariest Place on Earth. Like, that's my dream. That's what I want to do. So then fast forwarding a little bit, me and my friends were out having dinner and we were like, let's make a brand new YouTube channel where we go to all of these haunted places all around the world and we put them out. So that's something that we're trying to work on right now. But I couldn't contain my excitement after I'd been to my ghost hunting seminar, and I was like, right, let's go and stay in the most haunted hotel in the UK on Halloween night, because why not? So we had a little ghost adventures with Boston White. Basically, I have a relatively new boyfriend. We've been dating for like 6 months. So I'm trying to impress him with my fearlessness. So like, I don't know how well it's going with that.
Okay. So he hasn't done a runner just yet?
No. And so basically, on one of our very first dates, I was like, hey, so I'm really into like ghost hunting and like EMF detectors and like spirit boxes. And so I'm just going to put this out there now. So then if you don't like it, but no one's going to lose anything because we've been on like 3 dates. So
yeah.
But he was like, that's cool. So I'm like, okay, there's a super haunted hotel in our city. You've walked past it a bajillion times, but I bet you've never been in. So I'm going to take you into the bar. So we go in the bar, we have a couple of drinks, and I'm like, I just want to do a full ghost hunt in here. So when I had the opportunity to stay there on Halloween night, I had to take it. And he just witnessed me the week before doing a Ouija board at this ghost hunt seminar in front of an entire audience. So I'm like, if there was a time to run, it'd be then. So we're doing this.
Well, this guy sounds like a keeper. Can I say that?
Well, as I get more into the story, you will learn that he is a very, very much keeper.
Oh, okay.
So I booked this hotel. It's Halloween night. And I'm like, this is fine. This is cool. It's going to be awesome. I'm not going to be scared. This hotel is the Britannia Adelphi Hotel in Liverpool. And it's this big, old, fancy building. It's a little bit run down now. But back in the day, it was the place to be. So the building as it stands now was built in 1914. So there was another hotel there previously, but they knocked it down. Extra haunted. So they rebuilt it as the Adelphi. And at that time, it was supposed to be the most luxurious place that you could be outside of London. So we had all kind of fancy people staying there, like Franklin D. Roosevelt. I'm not American, I can't pronounce things. Winston Churchill, Frank Sinatra, and our Lord and Savior, Judy Garland.
Wow. Okay.
So, it's fancy. It's a fancy place to be. So there's a whole bunch of ghost stories online and in books about the Adelphi, from like a bellboy who will come and take your luggage and then he'll just disappear with it. I'm unsure about whether that's a ghost or that's just someone that's robbing your stuff. I'm undecided. And a ghost that jumped out of a window. And then haunted Liverpool author Tom Slemon insists that he encountered the ghost of the captain of the Titanic at one of his seminars at the Adelphi.
Wow.
So, there's some history there. So I'm filling my boyfriend in on our little drive there, and I'm like, right, this is a team effort. Ghost hunting is a team effort. So I just need to let you know what you're in for and what you need to be looking for. So we're checking in, and there's this businessy kind of guy in front of us, and he's like, yeah, I just need to make sure that my room has a window. So we both look at each other like, what? And the woman checking him in is like, yeah, no, it's fine, you'll have a window. And he's like, no, I need to make sure that I have a window that opens. So then me and my boyfriend are like, is this American Horror Story hotel? Like, is everyone here a ghost?
It sounds like an episode of Jonathan Creek.
Honestly, I'm like, is this the guy that jumped, like, is this the ghost that jumped out of the window? And we're just watching this unfold. And our boyfriend's like, Amanda, calm down. We're not even checked in yet.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. So in the middle of the hotel, they have this giant lounge ballroom type area, which looks just like the gold room from The Shining.
Oh my.
It's incredible. So during the night, I was posting Instagram stories. I've got it saved as a highlight on my Instagram page, which is just at Boston White in case you want to go and have a look at it. But it's gorgeous and very, very creepy. So it's just us in this big lounge area and some old guy who's just sat there picking his nose harder than I've ever seen anyone pick their nose before. And I'm like, this is ruining my creepy vibe.
So he was literally looking for ectoplasm.
Honestly, yeah. Like,
right, okay.
Absolutely. So I'm like, I need to go and explore stuff, but like I'm kind of having a nice little date in the middle of this big fancy gold room-esque lounge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the bathroom and I'm going to explore a little on my way. But I already have in mind what I want to look for, which is a pool and spa area that has been closed since 2006 because someone drowned in there.
Ooh.
Yeah. Defo haunted. So this pool and spa area is not on any map. It's not on any signage around the hotel. It's not even on any like fire route maps that are in the hotels. And they're made out of like metal on the doors. So they went to a lot of work to not have this spa and pool area advertised anywhere. So I've been to this hotel numerous times and I've never been able to figure it out. I went when I was little, and so obviously I would have seen the pool and spa area, but that was a long time ago. I'm old. I don't remember where exactly it was. So I'm exploring, and I happen upon a room. And in this room, there is basically every room in the Adelphi is like open. So it's a big old hotel. All these rooms are open. It's filled with like function rooms and suites and like conference sections where all these rooms are all open, so you can just go and explore everywhere. So I walk into this room, and in there is these 3 big oak chairs, like throne type of chairs. And they're just
random.
In the middle of extra random. They're sat in the middle of the room in like a square with a missing side. So 2 chairs are opposite each other, and then there's one in the middle. And I'm like, that's strange. And it smells like mass, like a church mass.
Okay.
But there's no religious anything anywhere. But there is an altar.
In this hotel room? In
this room that is adjacent to the big gold Shining-esque room.
Oh, okay.
So I'm like, what is this? And so I'm exploring around the room a little. Like, I hope I'm allowed to be doing this. I don't know. So then there's all of these white robes. But again, no religious anything anywhere in this room. But there is a big fancy staircase that just leads to a wall. So I'm like, is this a freaking secret entrance to somewhere? Like, where does the staircase go?
This sounds like Freemasonry.
Then I go and get my boyfriend, and I'm like, I just need you to come and look at this room. I haven't even found a bathroom yet. Like, I need you to just come and see this. So he walks in, and he's like, Amanda, there is literally a Freemason sign on the chair. Are you stupid? And I'm like, right. I find Freemasonry to be a little suspicious anyway because I don't know anything about it. So I'm marking this room as double suspicious.
Yeah.
So I think it was a creepy room. I also was undecided about whether I thought that the layout of it meant that they were going to bring people in to like judge them. So they'd all sit around them on these big fancy chairs and judge whether they had to stay in the hotel forever as a ghost.
They do blackball and stuff like that, don't they?
I have no idea what they do. I've been trying to find like documentaries about Freemasonry since, because ever since you mentioned it to me, I'm like, now that you say that, I do hear a lot of things like with the word Freemason in, and I hear all about like a secret handshake and blah, 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 and there's all these different logic. Well, what do they do?
Well, they're hidden in plain sight. That's the thing. I mean, if you go down a lot of high streets, they'll have a temple there. that's sort of right there. You've walked past it a million times and don't realise it's there. But they also, I think I'm right in saying that they they have like a very weird initiation ceremony that's really top secret. But apparently, it does involve putting a noose around your neck.
What?
It's about it's about trusting your brothers and stuff like that. Apparently.
Okay, so I need to dig more into Freemasonry and decide whether it's as suspicious as I think it is. But all that I have in my head now is that I've seen The Simpsons.
Like
you know what I mean?
Stonecutters.
Yes.
Yeah,
that is
no homers. Yeah.
So that room was debunked a little bit, but I still think it was creepy.
Yeah.
So, we're staying on the 6th floor, which is the top floor of the hotel. And we decide that on our way back up, because we were going to go out for the night and then come back and then explore a little bit more. So we're like, okay, we'll go and put our stuff in the room, but we'll take the stairs so that we can explore a little bit more. And what we noticed was that every single floor was all marble walls. All the doors were fancy. It all looked like a little bit run down, but like you would believe that it was a luxurious place to stay back in the day.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, marble back then was incredibly expensive.
Exactly. So then we get to our floor, and there's no marble. There's no fancy doors. It is all just really old, like run-down wallpaper and like old carpets, and it smells a little bit like weed. So we're like, okay, this is fine. I've stayed there before anyway, and I've stayed on that same floor, and I knew it wasn't going to be the fanciest place for us to stay. I was going for the ghosts.
Okay.
So we're on our top floor, and I notice a staircase that is going up another floor, and I'm like, no, this is the top floor. Where's the staircase going? And there's like little signs in there, but you can't really read what it says on the signs. So my boyfriend's like, I feel like that at one point said that you can't go up these stairs, and I was like, well, I can't read what it says now, so I don't know that to be the truth, so that I'm going to go up. So I walk up these stairs, and it just leads to a big landing kind of space, and then on the walls of this landing, scratched into the wall, was the word help in giant letters.
Oh, my life. Yeah.
So then around the word help is all of these like tallies, like they'd been marking the days that they were stuck on this landing.
Like someone that was stuck in prison.
Yes. So I'm like, what? This ghost hunt just got stepped up a level. So I'm exploring this landing, and there's just 3 little doors on here, but all the doors are locked. So then I look at the other wall, and it says RIP 1912. And what looks like a little smidge of blood, but it might have been rust. I'm undecided. So I peek through the little keyhole of the door, which leads right outside to the very top of the hotel. There was no balcony. It was just straight outside. So that door led to nowhere. If you opened it, you're on the roof and you could fall off.
Okay.
So I'm like, who's wrote help? Who's been making tally charts? What does all of this mean? So I whip out my EMF reader. And it does nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I'm like, I should have brought a spirit box, because I've been learning all about how to use them, and it was a prime time to use it. So we're like, okay, let's just go and find this pool. So we go out, we go and get a little bit tipsy, have a nice little Halloween night, and we go back determined to find this pool. And at this point, my boyfriend is like super on board, and he's like, we're not going to bed until we found this pool. And I'm like, yes. So we explore every inch of this hotel. It's like 2:00 in the morning. I've got my EMF reader out the entire time, EMFing every single inch of this hotel. I'm going through all these different corridors. I'm going in all these different rooms. I'm like, I do not know where I am. This hotel is like a maze. So then I find this staircase finally that goes down, because my theory of it was the check-in area is like the bottom, and then you have to go upstairs, a little flight of stairs, to get to the big gold room, and then you go up further to get to the hotel rooms. And from the lobby area, you can go down one flight of stairs to some bars and some restaurants. So in theory, a spa and pool area would be the floor below that.
Yeah.
Because it surely wouldn't be on any top floor if there's a big pool and stuff in there. So I'm like, there has
usually, if it's an old building,
Mm-hmm.
they would put something like that near the bottom of the building.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, there has to be a staircase that goes down at least to the level that the bars are on. So then we find this other staircase that is blocked off halfway down the staircase.
Okay.
And I'm like, it's got to be this. And I'm looking, dangling over the banister a little bit, like those doors look like they would lead to a spa, but it's all carpeted. So I don't know, I'm unsure, because then that would be like the carpet would just get all gross because everyone would be wet coming out of the spa. I don't know. But that's the only place it could be. So then I get the EMF reader back out again, and I am dangling over the banister to the side of the stairs that aren't blocked off. My boyfriend's holding me while I dangle over the banister to get my EMF reader as close to the door as I can, and my EMF reader is going crazy.
Ooh.
Like, I've never seen it go. Like, I've taken it to haunted places before, and you get like little bits, but this was going insane, and I was like, it has to be this place. Like, we have to find a way to get in there, but I also don't want to get arrested, and also don't want to get banned from this hotel because I love it so much. So then a security guard comes and he's walking around the corner, so like, act cool, and then we decided that we had to go to bed because it was then about 3:30 in the morning.
Oh my life. Okay.
But I feel like we are getting closer to finding this spa. And maybe it was just electrical equipment that was making it go off. But I feel like, why would there be additional electrical equipment in that area of the hotel? So I do believe that I found the most haunted spot of the hotel.
So behind that door, it was leading to like a basement area.
So the stairs went down. So it's just one flight of stairs that went down from the, it was kind of behind the lobby, behind the bars and the restaurants.
Yeah.
On like the side of the hotel, which makes sense because I know that there was a car park in the past that was in the basement. And that's now being closed too. So that's been closed for a few years, and now they have a new kind of like on ground level car park. So it would make sense to me that if they were going to close that entire area, that's where the pool would be too. But it's just, I can't find it anywhere. And then for a little bit, I started to believe that maybe this doesn't even exist. And then I Googled the story, and I'm like, no, it was there. Like, someone 100% drowned in there. It was there. I remember seeing it when I was little. I just can't find it.
What if, when you was in that first room, it said RIP 1912? Did you say this hotel was built in 1914?
Yeah, so the hotel that stands now was built in 1914. So the only thing, basically, when I came home from the hotel, I was really excited about everything. So my mum had came to visit. She lives in the Lake District. So she came to visit, and she's like, tell me all about it. And I was like, they had this scratching on the wall that said 1912, which makes no sense to me because the hotel was only built in 1914. And then I told her about Tom Slemon saying that he had seen the ghost of the captain of the Titanic at one of his seminars. And then I also told her that there is a suite at the hotel called the Sefton Suite, which again is a little bit reminiscent of the Gold Room from The Shining, but on a smaller level. But it's supposedly kind of modelled after the first class smoking lounge on the Titanic.
Yeah.
And the Titanic was obviously registered in Liverpool. Liverpool has a lot of history with the Titanic. So I'm like, if he's saying that he saw the captain of the Titanic, and then there's this etching on the wall that says RIP 1912, could this all be linked to the Titanic in some way? But I just don't know.
Wait. What year did the Titanic sink?
1912.
Well, there you go.
I know, but I'm like, what? Right. To me, if ghosts are going to haunt somewhere, it would most likely be maybe where they died, or maybe where they had like a strong attachment to.
Yeah, but we know that the spectral locationing of ghosts is different, because like we all know for a fact that Alfred Hitchcock haunts the Shrek attraction in Universal Orlando.
Oh, that is true.
So, I mean, he never even went there.
I feel like I need to know more of the hidden history of the Adelphi. And I feel like they're probably not too keen on, you know, it being marketed as a haunted hotel. But if it was me personally, because I really like the Adelphi and because it is slightly run down, anytime that we go out, because I live in Liverpool anyway, anytime that we go out, I'm like, okay, let's stay at the Adelphi. And everyone's like, no, Amanda, we're not, get out your head, we're not staying at the Adelphi. But usually to book a room there on a weekend, it's maybe about £150 on an average for the night, which I think is a little bit expensive. But on weeknights, you can sometimes get it for about £40. So I paid £40 on Halloween night to stay at this hotel, which is cheaper than getting an Uber home.
Yeah.
So it only
cheaper than most travel lodges. Honestly,
yeah. So I'm like, if I personally owned a hotel that was known for being haunted, I would have marketed the crap out of it for Halloween. And I would have charged a weekend rate for it. But I understand that not everybody wants to market the hotel in that way. If you read the TripAdvisor reports, people are giving it a negative review because they believe it's haunted.
Oh my.
And there is a room 666.
Oh wow.
Which you don't see very often in hotels, I don't think.
Well, yeah, there's lots of superstitions with stuff like that, isn't there?
Yeah, I know there's usually not like a floor 13. I don't think I've ever actually seen a room 666 in any hotel. I was in room 676.
Why weren't you in room 237?
Because that was a freaking marbled floor, wasn't it? So they were never going to give me a marbled room. Like, we know what she's coming here to do. Give her the cheapest room we've got. Give her the
room 237 has probably got that horrible old granny in the bath, you know.
I mean, I would have had a good time.
Yeah.
But I feel like next time I stay there, I feel like I should request both room 666 and room 237. So basically, I'm really sorry to my boyfriend, but we have to stay another 2 times.
Well, it sounds like he enjoyed himself the first time, so...
You know, like, credit to him. I know that, like, doing stuff like that isn't for everybody, but he was a good sport with it all, and he didn't think that I was weird, so that's good. And he's volunteered himself to come on my next haunted place adventure, because I've been to quite a few different haunted places and stayed at a few different haunted places. I'm very fond of castles because I like history too. So he's more than happy to come to some castles with me. But I am interested to know if any of you guys know of any haunted places in the UK that I can go and check out, because I did actually record some stuff from the Adelphi, but when we were dangling over the banister, deleted.
Oh.
Yeah.
By accident?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what happened. So I had it recording on my phone, and what I was doing was, you know how iPhone voice memos work, so you can just record it and then pause it and then record it. So I was kind of doing it like that on like little tiny bits throughout the night on my like little expedition to go to the bathroom, and I was doing Instagram stories at the same time. And I had it recording while I was dangling over the banister, and then we went back up to the hotel room. We were watching Ouija, Origin of Evil, so circling back around to Mike Flanagan, full circle. And then I woke up in the morning, I was like, okay, let's listen, because I didn't bring the spirit box. Let's listen and see if this has picked up on anything. And nothing. It was gone. The only thing that was there was a recording from Halloween Horror Nights. So I don't know what happened. I guess that when I've dangled over the banister, I've just accidentally leant on it and deleted it, or maybe the spirits didn't want me to unleash their secrets. But the next place that I go to, for sure, I'm going to take a tape recorder.
Yeah.
I'm going to go old school. I don't know whether I saw any ghosts or anything. I feel like, with the pool area, but I had a good time. That's all that matters.
So, do you know whether the pool area was in the new hotel or in the old hotel?
It was in the new one. So I have, over the years, I've been to the Adelphi like quite a few times. I've stayed there. This was my 3rd time staying there. But but I've been into Adelphi for things like weddings and like parties and stuff over the years, because it is right in Liverpool city centre. It's right near the train station, and it's for a lot of years it was, even I'm talking in the 90s, it was a fancy place. And so I know that I've seen it, and I've seen pictures of it on the internet, but it's not on any map of the hotel. So usually if you're staying at a hotel, it'll be like, okay, so pool area is here, this is your fire exit, this is your restaurant, blah, blah, blah. It is not on anything. And all of the signs in the hotel are all like gold or metal signs. So it's all etched into gold or metal.
Yeah. But
there wasn't even like, you know when you take one of those metal signs off of like old wallpaper and it leaves like a rectangle? There wasn't even any of them. There was like no sign of it at all. It was like it has never existed.
That is odd.
It's very, very strange. So I don't know. I'm undecided. I need to, if anybody can get me a blueprint of the Adelphi Hotel in Liverpool, I will be grateful.
Yeah.
I just want to know it's there. I'm not going to break into anything. I don't want to get arrested, but just a peace of mind so I know that I'm not crazy. I'd like to know that it still exists.
You probably are a little bit crazy, but whether or not that pool area exists, who knows?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, is it not even mentioned on any of the TripAdvisor? Oh, I had a great time in the pool. You know?
No, nothing. I mean, maybe if I went back to like pre-2006, but there is a lot of reviews on there.
Right, right.
But you can, if you Google Adelphi Hotel pool, the story of the person drowning will be there. Then they'll have a story about them closing it for health and safety reasons, and there's pictures of the pool area.
I'll tell you what you could do actually though. If you went on to, say, Liverpool City Council's website, you can go back through old planning applications. You can see whether they've converted it into rooms or something like that.
I need to do something. I need to know that the bit of the hotel where the EMF reader was going crazy was actually the pool, or whether it's something different altogether that's just like a crazy haunted room full of secrets.
We need to get in with the management.
We do. I actually saw a job posted to work there.
Oh my God, this is getting to obsession level now.
I know. So I'm on a job website and I'm like, I just look for jobs in the area. I'll have a look on LinkedIn. And then it comes up with a job there. And I was like, no, I can't. It's going too far, Amanda.
So we'll go next time. I'll distract the reception desk. You take the key.
Yes.
And then report back at, the room at 0 hours or whatever,
Perfect. It's a plan.
Okay. That is some good detectoring, that's for sure.
Thanks.
We better wrap up, I suppose. Before we do, we've got some pins to give away.
I'm so excited about this. I absolutely love them.
Yeah. Now, apparently, the company that's made them for us, or at least managed to get hold of them for us, they have had them manufactured by the same company that makes us the pins for Disney's parks.
Wow.
And I have them here, and I have looked at them, and they are very, very similar. I mean, even the rubber black thing on the back looks very similar to It's not a hidden Mickey, but it is it's very, very similar. It's very, very similar sort of standard. So anyway, we want to give you, the listeners, these pins away. We want to spread the word about the podcast. So what we thought was, if you could give us a 5-star review on iTunes, and then let us know your details through our social media, and we've got Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram currently. Let us know when you've done that. Let us know where you want us to send it, and we'll pop one in the post for you. I think that's a fair trade-off. Would you say?
Absolutely. Like, I posted a picture of this pin on Instagram, and so many people messaged me like, oh my God, need this for my jacket. And I'm like, yes, we all need them. They're so adorable. And actually, speaking about Facebook, we now have an actual Facebook page.
Yes.
And that's exciting.
Which is growing rapidly.
It is indeed. So I love seeing pages that have loads of interaction, and I love, so we have a few other podcasts, and the communities that we have with those podcasts are super interactive, and I love that. I love hearing like what you guys want to hear about, and I love hearing feedback on episodes, and I love just having a chat with you guys, honestly. So that Facebook page is called The Halloween Half Hour. If you just click to like it, then you can interact on the page as much as you want to, and we will, of course, chat back with you.
Yeah, definitely. So, yes, that's everything, I think, isn't it? I think, yeah.
Yeah, so on the next episode, we have an interview with the guys from For the Love of Horror, who, of course, did the convention that I was hardcore fangirling about on our first episode. And that is a really, really cool interview. So you guys do not want to miss that.
Great. And I have a little field trip to Pinewood Studios.
Yes.
So I'll discuss all the ins and outs and all the secret stuff that's going on at Pinewood.
Amazing.
On the next show. So brilliant. Okay, so thank you, Amanda. Thank you to the spooky voice guy.
Oh, yes.
Wherever he is. Thank you to our amazing producer, Aaron Adams. And this show is a part of the After Dark Podcast Network. Also a part of HHN Unofficial. Buy my books. Amanda.
Watch my YouTube channel.
Your Instagram.
Yes, follow me on Instagram. That's probably the easiest way to get in touch with me. I think that's what I'm most active on. And it's just but all of my social medias at Boston White.
Perfect. So that just leaves me to say, sleep tight and happy nightmares.
And I've been the spooky voice guy. Good night and happy nightmares, one and all.
Just in time for Halloween, Audible has produced the audiobook version of Christopher Ripley's sensational anthology of horror, Halloween Horror Stories, as hauntingly narrated by Hollywood actor Tony Scheinman. The book provides a scary selection of some of the weirdest, gory, most intense and downright crazy horror stories from around the world. From a modern-day Jack the Ripper diary to a clown named Jack. Listen as Tony brings to life not just classic horror tales such as The Raven or The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, but also brand new chilling tales, all assembled by HHN's own Christopher Ripley. And even better, you can listen to them today for free at audible.com/HHNU. Subscribe today and receive one other free audiobook of your choosing, and listen for free for 30 days. Cancel anytime, and if you decide to remain and enjoy the world's largest selection of audiobooks, it's just $14.95 US or £7.99 UK. For more, visit audible.com/HHNU.